It's 6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Medavala, read by Sounditavam. The President says that despite economic challenges, education remains a priority in the country. The Navy seizes local multi-day fishing trawler on suspicion of smuggling narcotics worth 2 billion rupees. A special meeting will be held in Russia later this month to facilitate the return of Sri Lankans deployed for military purposes. Discussions focused on the ways to enhance the SARC process. The subject minister says over 400 SLEAS vacancies will be filled shortly. In foreign news, Cyril Ramaphosa re-elected South African president. In sports, China fans sent Singapore goalkeeper money as thank you. President Ranil Wickremesinghe stated that the country is striving to develop the best education system in South Asia, tailored for the future. He made this announcement during the ceremony of handing over the first phase of the newly constructed 3-story building at Buddhist Girls' National College, Kirimetiana, Chilau, to the students yesterday. Despite facing economic challenges, the president emphasized that the government has prioritized funding for education, highlighting that education is the strength of the country. President Wickremesinghe received a warm welcome from the students on his arrival at the Buddhist Girls' National College, Kirimetiana. After offering flowers at the Buddhist shrine at the school and receiving blessings, President Ranil Wickremesinghe unveiled the plaque and handed over the new building to the students. He toured the new classrooms and engaged in a friendly conversation with the students. The President presented gifts to the students who excelled in the GCE Advanced Level examination. A commemorative gift was also given to President Wickremesinghe from the school. The first phase of the new building cost 450 million rupees, funded by both the government and the parents. Responding to a request made by the students, President Wickremesinghe mentioned that the construction of this building will be completed in 2 phases. A special operation mounted by the Navy led to the interception of a local multi-day fishing trawler on suspicion of smuggling narcotics on the high seas about 400 nautical miles south of Sri Lanka. The trawler was escorted to the Galle harbour yesterday. It is suspected that the trawler has smuggled about 150 kilograms of heroin, and a thorough search of the trawler is currently underway by the Navy. The Navy says that the street value of the heroin is about 2 billion rupees. A high-level delegation headed by the Foreign Affairs State Minister Tharaka Balasurya is scheduled to visit Russia to arrange for the repatriation of Sri Lankan ex-military personnel deployed in Russia for military purposes. Foreign Affairs Minister, President's Council Ali Sabri says that and the related discussions will be held on the 26th and the 27th of this month. The minister also noted that a team of officials have been tasked with reviewing the cabinet paper submitted to decide on Sri Lanka's potential membership in the BRICS organization. Their report is anticipated later this month. Foreign Minister, President's Council Ali Sabri highlighted this during yesterday's press conference at the Presidential Media Centre, focusing on the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country. The minister elaborated further stating, quote, President Ranil Wickremesinghe visited India to take part in the swearing-in ceremony of Sri Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India. Consequently, we anticipate a visit from the Indian Minister of Foreign Affairs to Sri Lanka later this month, with the Prime Minister of India expected to follow suit shortly, unquote. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Secretary-General of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, Golam Sarwa, visited Sri Lanka this week. During the visit, Secretary-General Sarwa paid courtesy calls on President Ranil Wickremesinghe, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri, and the Acting Secretary Ministry of Foreign Affairs Mohammad Jauhar. Discussions focused on the ways to enhance the SARC process. The Secretary-General appraised on the current activities of SARC and its challenges and sought Sri Lanka's support to alleviate the process. Foreign Minister Sabri, while appreciating the progress made, emphasized that the association requires to take further strides to strengthen regional cooperation. The SARC Secretary-General also participated in a roundtable discussion at the Lakshman Kadirgama Institute and appraised the current developments and the future direction of the SARC process. Education Minister Dr. Susil Premajayantha said that vacancies at the Sri Lanka Education Administrative Service that have not been filled for the last 3 years will be filled promptly. A limited examination has been held to recruit officers for the SLEAS and the results have been released and steps have been taken to appoint 404 officers before the 30th of June. Besides, arrangements have also been made to hold an open examination for the recruitment of officers for the SLEAS in the future. Minister Premajayantha mentioned that interviews are being conducted to fill 808 vacancies in the Teacher Education Service, and these interviews have also reached the final stage. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
A high-level delegation headed by the Foreign Affairs State Minister Balasuriya is scheduled to visit Russia to arrange for the repatriation of Sri Lankan ex-military personnel deployed in Russia for military purposes, and the related discussions will be held on the 26th and the 27th of June, said the Foreign Affairs Minister, President's Council Ali Sabri. The minister also noted that a team of officials have been tasked with reviewing the cabinet paper submitted to decide on Sri Lanka's potential membership in the BRICS organization. Their report is anticipated later this month and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the State Minister for Home Affairs, Asoka Priyantha, announced that the Grama Niladhari Service Constitution has been approved by the Public Service Commission following the approval of the Cabinet of Ministers. He also mentioned that the new constitution allows for necessary amendments. State Minister Ashoka Priyantha disclosed these details during a press briefing titled Collective Path to a Stable Country at the Presidential Media Centre and came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Making headlines this morning, Cyril Ramaphosa re-elected South African President. Putin lays out his terms for ceasefire in Ukraine, and rare twin elephants born in Thailand miracle. South Africa's parliament has re-elected Cyril Ramaphosa as the country's president following a landmark coalition deal between the governing African National Congress and opposition parties. The new government of national unity combines Mr. Ramaphosa's ANC, the centre-right Democratic Alliance, and smaller parties. In his victory speech, Mr. Ramaphosa hailed the new coalition and said, "Voters expected the leaders to act and work together for the good of everyone in the country." The agreement was hashed out on a day of high political drama, which saw the National Assembly sitting late into the evening for votes to confirm who would hold power in the new administration. Vladimir Putin has said Ukraine would need to withdraw troops from territories Russia claims to have annexed before a ceasefire could begin, a proposal Ukraine's president called a Hitler-like ultimatum. Volodymyr Zelensky has long said Ukraine will not negotiate with Moscow until Russian forces leave all Ukrainian territory, including Crimea. The Russian president also said Ukraine would have to give up on joining NATO before peace talks could start. Mr. Putin's statement setting out his ceasefire conditions comes as leaders from 90 countries prepare to meet in Switzerland on Saturday to discuss paths towards peace in Ukraine, a summit Russia has not been invited to. Speaking to a meeting of Russian ambassadors in Moscow on Friday, Mr. Putin called on the Ukrainian government to withdraw from 4 regions partially occupied by Russia: Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia. He also said Ukraine would need to officially give up in its efforts to join the NATO military alliance for the Russian advance to be halted. An Asian elephant in central Thailand has given birth to a rare set of twins in what caretakers have described as a miracle. The mother, 36-year-old Shamshuri, was not expected to deliver twins, and when she gave birth to a male calf last Friday, staff at the Ayodhya Elephant Palace and Royal Kraal had thought the delivery was done. But while cleaning up the first calf and helping it to stand on its feet, they heard a loud thud and realized that Shamshuri had given birth to a second calf, a female. The second birth sent the mother into a panic, and caretakers had to restrain her to prevent her from stepping on the female calf. Back to the headlines. Cyril Ramaphosa re-elected South African president. Putin lays out his terms for ceasefire in Ukraine. And rare twin elephants born in Thailand miracle. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
The University Grants Commission accepts applications for admission students who have received the minimum requirements for the university admission at the GCE A-level examination held for 2023. Candidates are informed that it is compulsory to apply for university admission online. The UGC chairman, Senior Professor Sampath Amaratunga, said that the UGC is calling for only online applications for university admission of the academic year 2023-2024 now until July 5th. That's development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Singapore goalkeeper Hassan Sani says he has received money from Chinese football fans after his 11 saves against Thailand in a World Cup qualifying match helped China reach the next round. China's hopes of making the final stage of Asian qualifying for the 2026 tournament was slim following a 1-0 defeat by South Korea in Seoul on Tuesday. Thailand then needed to beat Singapore by 3 goals in Bangkok to move second in Group C above China, which would have resulted in China's exit from the competition. Thailand did defeat bottom side Singapore 3-1, but China progressed thanks to 40-year-old Hassan's multiple saves. Hassan told Singapore's state broadcaster CNA a picture of the payment QR code from the food stall he runs has been circulated online, which fans have then used to transfer money. That came to you in sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Go ekaktiana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyamata set wenna aswahagena dakapuina habe karanna youth ekata niyamata set wenna friendship ekamenna.
The all-new NSB Itru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
On to business news. The 13th round of diplomatic consultations with China, which will be held in Beijing, will review the progress in the areas of bilateral engagement, including political, trade, investment and defence comprehensively. The Foreign Secretary Aruni Vijayawardena will lead Sri Lanka's delegation, and she will co-chair the consultations with the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China. Sri Lanka's delegation to the consultations will include the ambassador in Beijing, Majinta Jayasinghe, and senior officials in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Embassy of Sri Lanka in China. The preceding 12th round of bilateral political consultations were held on the 30th of May last year in Colombo. That's business news.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekaktiana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyamata set wenna aswahagena dakapuina habe karanna youth ekata niyamata set wenna friendship ekamenna.
The all-new NSB Itru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Weather report.
Several spells of showers will occur in the western, Sabragamo and northwestern provinces, also in the Galle and Matara districts. Strong winds of about 40 to 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times on the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north-central and northwestern provinces, also in Trincomalee, Hambantota and Monoragala districts. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The President says that despite economic challenges, the education remains a priority in the country. The Navy seizes local multi-day fishing trawler on suspicion of smuggling narcotics worth 2 billion rupees. A special meeting will be held in Russia later this month to facilitate the return of Sri Lankans deployed for military purposes. Discussions focused on the ways to further enhance the SARC process. The subject minister says over 400 SLEAS vacancies will be filled shortly. Cyril Ramaphosa re-elected South African president, and China fans sent Singapore goalkeeper money as thank you. With that, we end this morning's news broadcast, and now it's back to your host this Saturday morning, Sonal, to keep you well entertained. And well, I can see Sonal has certainly got something up his sleeve this Saturday morning. A very good morning to you, Sonal, and it's all yours.